This is for the awakened, the warriors of light, the seekers of truth, the ones who refuse to surrender to a world that tells them who to be.
This is a call to arms, to every heart that still beats with the fire of liberation, to the minds that refuse to be shackled by the illusions of fate, to the spirit that knows. We are the creators, the architects, the authors of our own stories.
It's time to take back our power, to become the change we seek in the world. For we are the revolution.
Welcome to Sage and Siva.
Your evolution begins now.
Welcome to episode 2 of Sage and Siva. Today we're going to be talking about how to restore the mind-body-spirit connection. I mean, the first thing that I feel compelled to say is that this is a lifelong process. This is not something that you're going to be able to achieve in, a 4-week course, or not to say that those aren't helpful. They absolutely can be, but this is a lifelong commitment. In our society today, we are so hardwired to expect immediate results. But this is not an immediate process. This is a lifelong commitment. And just know that if you're looking for profound change, it's gonna take time. Yeah. I think nutrition can be especially confusing because we are so inundated all of the time, at every touch point, whether that's in the grocery store or when we're scrolling through social. I mean, there's just so much messaging that it can be really hard to discern truth from marketing. Mm-hmm. And even influencers, if they're not selling you a specific product, they are still selling you themselves. Their content is designed to elicit the most response and engagement. And therefore, they're more likely to say, kind of sensationalized things, because eat a balanced diet is not going to get as much response as eat only peanut butter or steak and eggs for every meal all the time.
7 pounds in 7 days.
Exactly. Yeah. And those claims are rampant too. But really, I mean, the thing about nutrition is I feel like we're always expecting or seeking some type of like new information. Because again, we're looking for that quick fix, whether it's like a certain food that we're incorporating or a supplement that we're incorporating. But really, I mean, obviously, research continues to be valuable and we always want to be doing new research, but the rules don't change that much. And it's consistency that is going to get people where they want to be. And, in relation to the mind, body, spirit connection, basically what you're hoping to achieve with your nutrition is to make your body feel safe. And what's going to make your body feel safe is by consistently giving it what it needs. And that looks like a balanced diet. I think people have short-term success with elimination diets. And I do think if you have a particular issue, if you're having a lot of gut problems, or if you're having acne, which is, of course, related to the gut, something like that, it can definitely be helpful to do an elimination diet, but with the understanding that it's meant to be short-term and it's not meant to be your way of life forever. Right. Because eventually you are going to see the effects of lacking in a particular nutrient. Yeah. Because that's not how we were designed to eat.
I think it's really frustrating, like you said, like there's so much misinformation out there that what should be common sense is not common. I mean, I'm immediately thinking of the food pyramid that literally the government put out, and they're trying to tell us to eat 11 servings of grain per day.
Yeah, insane.
Me personally, I would die with that gluten insensitivity or whatever. Like, yeah, I would not be a happy person. I would be inflamed. I would have acne and all the things.
I would not leave the bathroom.
Like, who wrote that? Yeah, so it's just like, I think people don't really know which sources to trust, and that kind of comes back to the whole, like, you really need to like walk your own path and listen to your body, because your body will tell you, hey, I don't like eggs,
right?
Even though the eggs are healthy and they're high protein, like my body doesn't like eggs or milk, or you kind of have to like follow that path yourself. and figure out what works best for you. Some people may only want to eat 2 or 3 meals a day. Some people need smaller meals more frequently, but it's just whatever you do, it has to be consistent and intentional and have awareness around it all.
Absolutely. Yes. If anyone is telling you that you have to do something a certain way, I'd probably not listen to them. If you're working with a coach or a nutritionist or something, and they are not starting out by asking you any questions or encouraging you to listen to your body and kind of do your own research, I would use caution. Um, yeah, but a great way to do that is an elimination diet, especially if you really don't know where to start, and you don't have any sort of idea, what foods you might be sensitive to or what foods your body responds really well to. But also just keeping a food diary is helpful too. Whether that's logging on MyFitnessPal. And by the way, you can turn off the calorie count on MyFitnessPal, I believe. So if you want to track your food, but you're really not interested in calorie counting, there is an option for that too. Um, but yeah, just paying attention to what your body does after you consume certain foods. And again, sounds super simple, but actually
Not
requires a lot of conscious thought.
a lot of personal work for sure. Um, Another thing I think people should be mindful of is like there's a lot of fear mongering around certain nutrients. Like my mother's demographic, for example, like they are terrified of fat. Well, like your brain needs fat,
Right.
good luck functioning without a brain. Like carbs. That's your fuel. You have to have carbs. You have to have them. So
Oh yeah.
when
Especially
you
as women.
right,
Yeah.
yes, and I think we're the ones that immediately like this is too many carbs. Like I can't have this. But I think you and I actually had this conversation a while ago. It's like when you are consistent and you're giving your body what it needs, it's amazing how much food you can actually eat. And like, everybody's terrified of gaining weight, but you don't. Like you feel good and like everything works better. And you're like, wow, I can actually eat and not not feel gross in my clothes, and I feel amazing. And so,
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh god, so many things to say about that. If you haven't read The Dorito Effect, that's one that I really, really highly recommend. Um, he gets into a lot of like the artificial and natural flavorings that are in food, and basically what that does is just inhibits your body to be able to respond properly to the food, because we crave certain foods based on what our body needs, based on the nutrients that we need. And we get confused because we're tasting one thing, but we're not actually getting the nutrients that would come from that taste naturally. So then we, of course, tend to overeat, and it's sort of a vicious cycle from there.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking of the analogy of building a house with styrofoam balls. And that's kind of what the modern American diet is. It's high calorie foods, but there's no nutrition in it.
Right.
So we're giving our bodies all of these calories, and they're like, well, wait, like we're still starving.
Yeah.
And then that's how you like you're stuck in the cycle of eat, 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 and you never feel full. You never feel satiated. So
Yeah. And these foods stress your body. They put strain on your body. I mean, just thinking, just using common sense, thinking about it, like you're eating something that is basically completely devoid of nutrients. Like it is taking your body energy to extract the little bit of nutrient content in that food versus when it's readily available. And even just getting your nutrition aligned can free up so much energy within your body and your mind and your spirit, because instead of spending all of this energy on just trying to extract, so basically in survival mode, your body's trying to get what it needs, you have this energy for things like evolution of consciousness and
shocking.
right.
Another thing with women specifically, our appetite changes throughout our cycle, and I think that's something that women need to be more mindful of as well. There are certain nutrients that you're going to need more of depending on where you're at in your cycle, and The meal plan that you sent over for me has been so helpful with that,
Awesome.
actually.
Okay, good.
Because again, like, do I eat red meat? Do I not? Like, short answer, yes, but like make sure it's in the proper time of my cycle,
Absolutely.
which has been
Yes.
huge game changer for
Yes.
me. So
Love it. Love
thank
to
you for
hear it.
that.
There are so many misconceptions, but also just like complete lack of information around our cycles and what we can expect at different parts of our cycle and what we need in different parts of our cycle. It's astonishing. I mean, and then you think of hormonal birth control, which
Oh
completely like
Lord.
hijacks that anyway. So, you know, aside from all the other things that it does to your body, and being a carcinogen, it disconnects you from your body because you're not in your natural rhythm and your natural cycle. So that's not how women were meant to be. We were not meant to have the 24-hour hormonal cycle like men. We have a 28 day, 30-day hormonal cycle.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So funny you brought that up because yesterday I was reading this article how the pill actually messes with our ability to interpret pheromones. So it's like you're not attracted to the same type of man
mhm.
that you would be off of the pill. And I just thought
Right.
that was, I don't know, I thought that was crazy that even to that extent it messes with your natural
My
flow.
God, there's so much we don't understand about them, but like the way that they interact, not only within our own bodies, but with other people too. Like to me, that's aura. That's like this spiritual connection. It's like the physical manifestation of this like higher part of ourselves that like has its own consciousness almost. Like we're not consciously telling our hormones what to do or like when to disperse throughout our body. That's like fully this, I don't know, it magical kind of process
It
that
feels
like
magical. Like,
yeah, it really does. And you know, what is science and what is magic anyway? Those
right.
lines are so blurred. So again,
Magic is science we don't understand yet.
absolutely. All right.
You're like, okay.
Okay, shut up, shut up, shut
Okay.
up.
I'm sure that's a quote somewhere.
It definitely
It
is.
should be.
It is. I have for sure seen that before.
I just burnt my whole esophagus. It's fine.
Oh no.
I thought it would be cooled off by now.
Thanks. Do you need to take the lid off for a bit?
We're good.
So the other thing I do want to mention before we get off of nutrition is if you're if you want to start focusing on nutrition and getting your nutrition aligned, I think the best way to approach that is by thinking about nutrients. You know, calories, carbs, all of that. Not to say that it's not important or that maybe it wouldn't benefit you to track at some point. Those should really be at the bottom of your list when you are just getting started. And what you should be focusing on is making sure you're getting the proper nutrients that you need, which again goes back to that balanced diet. It's absolutely prioritizing whole foods and not prioritizing processed foods. And really, even just with those few changes, focusing on getting good proteins, a variety of sources of proteins, focusing on eating the rainbow and, colorful fruits and vegetables, focus on healthy fats. You're not going to overeat. There's a very very small chance that you are going to absolutely just gorge yourself on whole foods, and you're also going to be giving your body what it needs. So that is definitely where you need to start.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I always like to look at it from a posture of, am I loving my body or am I trying to make it fit a mold that's not its original design? Um, when you think of it that way, you kind of remove the fear around certain things. That's where I kind of backed away from the fear of calories and fat and carbs and everything, and was able to actually start eating nutrient dense foods.
Mm-hmm.
But also back to the styrofoam house analogy, it's like when you give your body the building blocks that are sufficient, you don't you don't crave as much. Like your body is satiated, has everything it
Mm-hmm.
needs. So you can take 500 calories and eat a slice of pizza, or 500 calories would get you like a 4-ounce steak and a sweet potato and some greens, and like that's a lot of food
Mm-hmm.
versus
Mm-hmm.
one little slice of pizza and you're going to need more food in an hour.
Right.
Like, so it kind of it balances itself out in a weird way.
Yeah.
So you don't even have to worry about being hungry. So, but
Mm-hmm.
back to what I was saying, if you approach it from a headspace of loving yourself and giving your body what it needs,
Mm-hmm.
it completely changes the game.
100%. I'm glad you said the loving your body, because I think it can be helpful to think of it as a relationship, like
Mm.
your relationship with your own body, and comparing that to what you would want and expect in a relationship from a person. You wouldn't want to be fed a bunch of BS one day and then be ghosted the next day. You wouldn't want to be withholding, or you want to give your body what it needs lovingly.
Hmm. And she loves you back, which
Absolutely.
is
Yeah.
it's this whole, like you said,
Yeah.
relationship.
Beautiful relationship.
Yeah.
Got to talk about strength training, because I mean, God, it sounds so dramatic to say it changed my life, but I mean, it did.
It
It,
changed my life.
first of all, as a woman, to go from, you know, always focusing on being the absolute smallest version of ourselves, to then focusing on actually getting stronger and building muscle and eating enough to facilitate those things is just awesome. Not only that, but there are so many misconceptions around like what lifting weights will do. Women stay away from it because they think it's going to make them bulky, blah 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 blah. We've heard it all a million times, and it's just simply not true.
No, it's not true.
Generally speaking, from an aesthetic standpoint, you're probably going to get the results you want from strength training. But aside from all that, I think strength training is just like such a perfect metaphor for so much of what we do to, improve ourselves, or to connect on a spiritual level, or
Mm-hmm.
to do that deep inner work. First of all, it's consistency. You're not going to go to the gym for a couple of weeks and then magically you're strong and you're ripped. Like, it's a lifelong process. It's a lifelong commitment. You're going to hit plateaus, and then you have to figure out how to push through them. You have to progressive overload. You have to continually challenge yourself and expand your
Mm-hmm.
capacity to take on more. And then if you're comparing it to transmutation, it is the original transmutation. You are taking literal physical pain, the physical pain of lifting heavy things, and then instead of being like, oh, that was terrible and traumatic, we're just going to forget that experience. You don't forget it. You use it. You transform it. You transmute it into muscle, into something that makes you a better version of yourself, and that
Mm-hmm.
makes you a more expanded, literally and figuratively, version of yourself, and just expands your capacity to take on more, whatever
Yeah.
that looks like.
Yeah.
So I love it. I
I
love
like
it.
I love everything about the metaphors in the gym, but it's like finding comfort in the discomfort, and I
Hmm.
think all gym rats can attest to that. It's like
Hmm.
you almost get to a point where you feel like you haven't worked enough if you don't have that, like that burn,
Oh yeah.
and
Oh
you look
yeah.
forward to it
For
even,
sure.
because it means like you put in the work and
Hmm.
it's gonna have this lovely payout for
Hmm.
you.
Yeah. Yeah. Rewiring your subconscious to crave that
Yes.
discomfort, to crave the newness and the challenge, because you know what's on the other side of that. So every time you're going to the gym and every time you're experiencing that feeling, you are rewiring your subconscious to crave that, and giving your subconscious positive reinforcement for that, which
Mm.
has a huge impact on other areas of your life as well.
Well, not to mention the hormonal effects of
Hmm.
like just the effect of contracting a muscle releases the happy hormone in your body. Like, we are designed to crave the growth.
Yeah.
I, well, I was going to say no pain, no gain, but it's true. Like, without the pain, you don't grow. So
Hmm.
I just think that's beautiful.
So yeah, it might not be, maybe strength training is not what speaks to you. Maybe getting stronger is not necessarily like your goal, but the same concept applies no matter what end result you're seeking, whether you want to be more flexible or faster or more agile. It's taking that discomfort and transmuting it into a more evolved version of yourself, and kind of the beginning stages of shifting that narrative from victim to being the hero of your own story, learning to listen to your body and give yourself the type of physical activity that you need at that moment, being willing to listen to your body, knowing when is the time to push, when is the time to rest. So I think we didn't really go from the perspective of like listening to your body as much as we've talked about like giving your body the opportunity to reconnect. Like I see strength training and yoga and physical activity is it's like a very proactive behavior. I feel like you're trying to like reestablish that connection, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. Another thing I think people should also be aware of is like just like in nutrition, there's a lot of misinformation. It's the same in, I'm going to say, the movement industry, because every modality wants to tell you like they are the one and true way that you're going to get fit.
Yeah.
And what does that even mean anymore? Especially with curated angles and lighting, and half the people that are fitness influencers on Instagram don't even look like their pictures on Instagram.
Or they're on steroids.
Or that. Or they're not doing
Truly,
it. Yeah. They're not following their own plan. Like they're doing other things too. So again, it comes back to that whole like really listening to your body and figuring out what works for you, because it's going to be different for everybody. Some people just were not meant to be runners. It like kickstarts the cortisol effect, and like you're gonna get inflamed and your body does not like it. You have to literally do your research and figure out what your body likes and what you will do consistently. Back to the nutrition and what you said about like it doesn't matter how clean you eat if you're not consistently eating clean. It doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah.
Same with movement. If you're not consistent, it cares. Like it's not gonna make any sort of effect. So whatever feels right and whatever you will do consistently, that is what works for you.
Yeah. And again, going back to, with that consistency, you have to drop the expectations. I think consistency is one of those things, like we know that in our minds. We know that consistency is key, yet we're going to be looking for that, 6-week shred program so we can look a certain way on vacation, or, and then if we're not seeing those results, we're going to quit. And I think that speaks to, what you were talking about, is you have to find what works for you. And if something feels like a punishment, you're not going to keep doing it. So you have to find what feels good to an extent. Yes, there's going to be discomfort. Yes, it should be challenging, but there's a difference between a challenge and punishment.
Oh, for sure. And also coming from a heart posture of love, like we talked about with nutrition, I think a lot of gym people can attest to this too. It does not matter how fit you get. If you don't love your body first, you will never like the reflection in the mirror.
Yeah, very true.
I've always kind of been a gym girl, even before my spiritual journey started. And I would set a goal for myself to, hit certain amount of weight in the gym, and I would hit it, and then once I hit it, I'm like, I don't like the way I feel right now. So then it was like chiseling away at the muscle I just built, and then oh my gosh, I'm too small. So then I would start adding, and it's just like I was never content.
Right.
And I know I'm not alone in that. I think that's
Definitely
like a common,
not. Yeah.
common thing in the gym.
Canon experience.
Oh my gosh. But then you throw in like body dysmorphia, and then like heaven forbid you are a woman that bloats before her period, and like it would ruin my whole day. Not realizing this is a normal thing that happens. And, like I would cancel social plans even if I felt gross,
right.
But so coming from a place of love first, like being able to love yourself on even the gross days, I think just allows you to have those wins more authentically, and you don't add more stress to yourself trying to hit certain expectations. You just like, again, it comes back to like this relationship that you have with your body.
Mhm.
I even talk to my body now,
Yes, I love
and
that.
it's kind of removing the ego from this relationship too, because we're human. We want to attach the ego to everything. Our identity is literally attached to
This is
everything.
so annoying.
It's exhausting.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
exhausting. It's just all this whole inner narrative that we have with ourselves, and we can ruin our own day
Yeah.
over these
Oh,
limiting beliefs.
been there many a time. Yeah. Or if you're focused on, achieving a very specific aesthetic result, you're making yourself fully vulnerable to be manipulated. You're feeling bloated, and then some influencer who took a picture, 2 weeks before her period and 2 weeks after, claiming that some drink she's selling is what gave her that result, when in reality it was just her shifting cycle.
Yeah.
You're not going to fall victim to that, because it's more to that. It's more meaningful than just this external result.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when you learn to operate from that internal validation versus the external validation, you stop giving your power away
Hmm.
to anything,
Right.
whether it's influencers or family members
Yeah.
or
What?
sorry.
Like that would ever happen.
I just hurt both of our feelings. But yeah, back to relationship. You can listen to what your body needs from you in this moment, and instead of furthering your shame and like your guilt, and you already feel pretty bad if you're bloated and you're about to start.
Yeah.
Like let's not make it anything other than what it is. Like in yoga, we call that chitta vritti, which is mind fluctuations, and basically we're like creating this whole story that doesn't even exist.
Yeah, attaching all sorts of meaning to things just based on our egoic perception of those things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so one other thing I want to touch on that is slightly more physical, is stress.
Have you seen Inside Out 2?
It's been on in the background. I haven't really
Okay.
paid attention to it.
Well, I highly recommend it because I
Okay.
know it's a kids movie, but they do a really good job of painting that whole concept.
Really, I love that.
Anxiety is painted perfectly in that, but it kind of shows a background, like behind the scenes look
Uh-huh.
of what's happening during like a moment of anxiety or a panic attack. But
Mhm.
um, our brain is designed to keep us safe. It doesn't care
Ding,
if
ding,
we're
ding.
happy. It doesn't
Yeah.
care that we're at peace. It wants us safe. And it's this computer program essentially designed specifically for that. And if it can do it faster, it's going to do that. So
Mhm.
it creates these neural pathways
Mhm.
where it's like, okay, this reminds me of something that happened in sixth grade and you got really embarrassed. So I don't want that to happen again.
Mhm.
We're going to immediately jump
Mhm.
to worst case scenario, and it starts firing off the same kind of hormones that you felt when you fell in front of everybody in the cafeteria in
Mhm.
sixth grade.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But where we see that being an issue is like in normal scenarios that you're not actually in any sort of danger,
Mhm.
and you start having these reactions for no reason, um, and they are physical. Like they can show up physically too if you don't take the time to be aware of them and process them. Um, a way that this showed up for me personally, the way it was explained to me was your body cannot tell the difference in different kinds of stress.
Mhm.
There's physical stress, emotional stress, mental stress,
Mhm.
and it's just all inundated from all sides. So if you're stressed at work and then maybe you're going through something stressful at home, and then you're going to the gym or you're not sleeping and you're not feeding yourself what it needs, or if when you are eating it's high sugar content,
Mhm.
it's all stress to your body.
Right.
So it basically has this threshold that it can handle and manage normally. And
Mm-hmm.
once you're past that, things start happening. So for me, that manifested with my face in the evening would swell. And they call it moon face. And basically, it's just like, hey, there's way too much cortisol up in here. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to have to do
Mm-hmm.
something about this. And I did. I had to like reset my whole entire nervous system to not think that everything was a bear in the woods trying to kill me, you
Mm-hmm.
know? Um,
So what did that process look like for you?
it in the beginning, it was stressful in itself because it required me to slow down
Mm-hmm.
immensely.
Mm-hmm.
um, I'm glad it happened now because just the act of slowing down and like really examining every aspect of my life helped me to kind of take more control. Like, speaking of power, I had given my power away to so much stuff. Like, first thing I did was throw away the scale
Hell
because it
yeah.
did whatever number was on that scale dictated how my day was going to be.
Yep.
And it doesn't work like that. That number is going to change, especially for women. It's going to
Mm-hmm.
change
Mm-hmm.
throughout the day, even. So to give that number so much power over my life is silly, really. So
Oh,
I
it
just
has a
did
grip on so many people. Shoo.
the number on the scale, the number on the tag in your clothes, like it just just chains and weights all around that I
Mm-hmm.
didn't realize were there, but they're constant stressors that you
Mm-hmm.
just accept as normal.
Right. Yeah.
And your body's like, oh, dude, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
You're going to have to listen. But like kind of what you said earlier is if you don't listen to the messages she's sending, she's just going to keep getting louder.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of ways that manifests for some people is chronic pain,
Yeah.
especially unexplained
Mm-hmm.
chronic pain, like
Mm-hmm.
um, digestive issues.
Yeah,
That's a
that's a
big
big one.
one. Migraines. I know,
Mm.
and it's in modern medicine, it's kind of just passed off as normal.
Yeah,
Like,
it
this is part
is.
of aging.
Yep.
No, it is not.
Yeah.
No, it's not. We've
You should-
accepted it,
Right.
but it's not normal. It's
Mm-hmm.
not how we were designed.
Right. Right. Yeah. Shoot. Before we get too far away from it, I love that you mentioned the neural pathways specifically because it is rewiring your brain to know that it is safe in these different situations, and the only way to rewire is to firstly become conscious of the patterns and then consciously try to break the patterns to create those new pathways. So I think a lot of people, if they were to hear the phrase mind body spirit connection, their mind is going to immediately go to like a meditation practice or different types of practices that are meant to give you peace essentially, or some type of insight. And yes, those practices are incredibly important, and we're going to be actually releasing some resources that talk about those specific practices. But that is, it's almost the cherry on top. If you even like in our culture of like manifestation, like people want to manifest things and they start this manifestation practice and think that if they say this mantra or do this specific meditation every day, then they're just going to become this wizard that manifests everything that they want. And it's like, no, actually, instead of starting with the fun manifestation practice, you need to start with the deep, guttural, unpleasant inner shadow work.
We're going to tear everything down.
Yes,
first.
it's so necessary. I mean,
Yeah.
if you are still living in the same state of mind, still living out those subconscious patterns, those reflexes, then your manifestation practice it's not gonna cut it.
Yeah.
I like to think of it as, water represents the unconscious and our emotions, right? So think of yourself in a boat, and the boat has a hole in it, and it's also pouring down the rain. So you might have an umbrella, and sure, the umbrella is going to be nice because it's going to give you a little bit of a reprieve from the rain pounding your face. But at the end of the day, if you don't fix that hole in the boat, it doesn't really matter. The water, the emotions, the subconscious is still completely in control. So first, first those patterns have to be broken, and you have to establish where you want to go from there.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was the last episode that we recorded where you talked about being the creator of your own story. And whether you are conscious of it or not, you are creating something. So it's almost like taking the time to really look at every aspect of your life and decide, did I consciously choose this, or was this something that I just accepted as normal? Was this passed down to me from ancestors? Or did I actually want this? Does this align with me now and who I am or who I want to be? And literally picking through everything with a fine tooth comb. Because what I found is a lot of the things that I had set as foundations in the life that I built weren't even things that I consciously chose. Like they were, well, this is how it's always been. So, like, why not,
Yeah.
Or maybe even didn't even realize I had a choice on certain things. So it's scary. At a certain point in my journey, I had this whole like existential crisis. Well, who the heck even am I?
Right. Right.
Especially when I started like really picking through what my stress was. I remember saying to my personal trainer at the time, I was like, I don't even know who I am without my stress. Like I've built my whole life around these pain points that I'm trying to hide from, essentially. So then diving into that and figuring out this is a hole in my boat.
Yeah.
And patching that hole.
Yes.
So it gets real hairy sometimes, y'all.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, I like that you mentioned the ancestral stuff too. So like I feel like what I'm about to say is gonna sound pretty woo-woo, or at least pretty like nebulous, but I'm gonna say it anyway. With like the more ancestral, generational, inherited patterns, you have to be so incredibly patient, because first of all, it might take you a while to even recognize that there are patterns there. But even after you recognize them, they don't just go away like that because you recognize them. It honestly, it feels, and I know people say like the universe is not testing you. That's not how it works. But I do feel like you have to show up consistently.
Yep.
Like everything else. You have to have a certain level of dedication to doing the work before this next level unlocks for you, essentially, before this particular pattern is broken. And then again, it truly is like, I imagine it in my mind's eye as a leveling up. And now from this new perspective, you're able to see so much more. So be prepared then to be faced with a lot of uncomfortable emotions at that point, because then once you have this higher perspective, all the things that you didn't think twice about and the burdens that you didn't even realize you were carrying are going to become abundantly clear to you. You're going to be able to see it all, and that's going to hurt for a little while. But again, it's just like strength training. You're going to hit that plateau. You're going to have to figure out how to push through it. You're going to add on more weight. You've got to figure out how to transmute it, not carry it, but transmute it,
Yeah. And then you and I talk about this quite a lot. You'll think that you have solved this puzzle.
I got it figured out.
Yeah. I've got this one figured out. I've transmuted it. I've leveled up. And then we refer to it as the Fibonacci spiral.
Yes.
You come around to the other side of it and you see it from a different perspective and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like it's still there. So it's just almost like you have to surrender to the whole process. And again, it comes down to like removing your ego from it, because I'm very much like, well, I'm gonna tackle this and I'm gonna conquer everything, and I'm gonna be spiritually awakened in 3 years, period. But no,
the
universe doesn't work that way. You have to surrender to the process, and let me tell you, the universe is on her own time frame. It's just real frustrating sometimes.
Yeah.
And just when the emotions come up, not running from them, but addressing them, sitting them down at the table and be like, okay, what are you trying to show me?
So yeah. First of all, I love that you said surrendering, because that is exactly what it is. And just in the same way that we can be, externally seeking a particular size or a reflection in the mirror, we can also externally be looking for a certain result from our spiritual practices. Like, I want to fix this one particular thing. But again, if you're focused on the external, it doesn't work. So lifelong process. It's a surrendering. You do have to be committed to it. And you're right, the universe has her own timing, and it's frustrating until you see why. And you only see why by staying in it, by staying committed, by surrendering. And eventually you're gonna realize, like, there was something about the timing before, or about that particular opportunity, or, insert here, that was not right for you, and something more aligned was coming. But it will only come if you are committed and if you're fully in it.
Yeah. And like, actually, not just verbalizing it, but like actually feeling surrendered and being okay with things not working out the way your ego brain is telling you that it should work out.
Oh yeah. Welcome to the last 3 years of my life.
Mine too. It's been real fun.
Yeah.
Real good time. Since we're talking about this too, I think it's important to mention you are just as susceptible to the ego on a spiritual journey as you are before you take the first step on this journey. Because I was definitely a victim to this, where I'm healed.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now my identity is attached to being on this spiritual journey. And I wanted to like change my aesthetic to match said spiritual journey. I'm like, whoa. What am I doing?
Yeah.
You can almost like adopt spirituality as a
brand.
A brand, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And kind of miss the whole point. Because like we just talked about, it gets real messy sometimes.
Yeah.
It's not this sitting in a yoga studio meditating and lighting candles, and it's not. I mean, that's cool. I do all of those things, but it's so much more than that.
Oh yeah. Being enlightened.
A
guy goes on like one trip to the mountains, and then he's enlightened, and then he's gonna charge you $10,000 to come on this experience with him.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, it's so true though. I mean, I don't know. Again, kind of going back to that, like, craving the discomfort, like, I want to be spiritually challenged at this point, like, because I know now what's on the other side of that. I know the growth that's going to follow that. I know the clarity that's going to follow that. And I'm like, freaking bring it on. Okay, gently.
Like, can I get
You're always listening, but
can I get a breather?
Yeah.
Just a second between lessons. Yeah. Also, I think it's important to mention that just like in nutrition world and movement world, there are influencers in the spiritual world that want to hit you with a quick fix. Just like our advice is to both of the other modalities, you have to really listen to yourself. And that's why it's so important to truly know yourself, look at your life fully examined, and be able to discern what is for you and what is against you.
For sure.
It's important, damn it.
Absolutely. I just have nothing. There's nothing more to say.
People make a lot of money with quick spiritual fixes. I think I've fallen trapped to some of them.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. I mean, my God, like, you want to talk about discernment? That's like one of the hardest industries to practice discernment, because they're speaking the language that you are familiar with, but that doesn't mean that it's coming from a truthful or authentic place in the slightest. Which is why I love synchronicities, because you can't fake that. You can't fake it. I mean, maybe they can be up there just with their thesaurus, just spitting out a bunch of random words and hoping that something somewhere is going to connect with someone. But the universe will speak to you if you are open and and willing to listen. And since we've talked so much about, subconscious reprogramming, I will mention too that for the non-believers in things like signs and synchronicities, worst case scenario, you are just rewiring your subconscious. Maybe you don't believe that there is anything beyond what our eyes can see that is happening, that is presenting these signs and synchronicities to you. But then again, worst case scenario, you are just assigning meaning to something. And then every time you see that thing, it's a positive reinforcement, positive feedback. So surely you're assigning like a positive meaning to something, and then every time you encounter it, it's just that little reminder. It's so no harm, no foul, in my opinion.
What foul could come from more positivity in the world?
Yeah.
I will speak to that as well. Like you can actually speak to the universe and ask for signs, and she will send them regardless of how crazy they are,
regardless of whether or not you want them.
How off the wall. Seriously, like taste and see. Challenge her. You may have to wait a minute because, like I said, she is on her own time frame. But it always seems to happen right when it's supposed to, which is wild. But
yeah,
just taste and see. Seek knowledge through your own personal experience. And I think there's a lot to say about that, which we will probably dive into at a further date, because that is a whole topic in itself.
Gosh, yes.
But really just being your own authority, taking responsibility for yourself and your path, because at the end of the day, you're the only one that's going to answer for any of your decisions. Nobody else. Yeah.
Well, I love what you said, and I'm shocked that we hadn't already touched on that, but you have so much knowledge already inside of you. And so yes, there's so much to learn, there's so much to experience out there, but what I love about the surrender and what I love about the deep inner work is you aren't seeking those answers outside of yourself. You are just going deeper and deeper and deeper within yourself. And there are tools and resources out there that can certainly guide you on that process and help facilitate that. But at the end of the day, it's what already lives within you that you are looking for.
Yeah.
Okay, so clearly we can talk about this literally all day. That was a lot more information than we intended. So that being said, there will at least be a part 3, which we weren't necessarily expecting, if not, a part 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But we will also be putting out a ton more information on the mind body spirit connection. We'll be hosting workshops, so if you're local, that's something you can keep an eye on and check out. Follow us on Instagram. It's just at Sage and Siva, I think. Okay, yeah. So we're gonna get that up and running very soon, and we'll be sharing more about what we've talked about on the podcast, maybe some additional resources. So please be sure to share that so we can reach more people and our work can get out there. And then some ebooks and some, workbooks. Tons of resources are coming to help be an ally in this process for you.
Yeah, we want to equip you guys to do the work yourself and have these experiences so you know
thyself.
Exactly.
All right. Thanks, guys. We will see you next time.
See ya.